I'm gonna have to do that one more time. Top of the morning to you. It's tea time. Yum. Thanks to my dear friend Kirsten Brewer at Jade Frog for sending such amazing tea my way. Check them out if you are interested in drinking sacred aged teas from back in the day. Yum. Well, what are we looking at on the screen? I wanted to share a very fascinating example of a parallel, an astrological parallel, a so-called conjunction and declination. This is a chart that I had hoped to get to as an example chart in a class I taught yesterday at Constellations, the School of Earthstrology's membership community, which, by the way, is amazing. I'm going to put a link for you in the chat. GeminiBrett.com/constellations will get you there quickly. We are still offering the membership group at the maiden voyage price of only $16 a month, or $160 a year. There are 5 scheduled community discussions every week. I don't make them all, but different stars of our constellations do, to talk about the signs of the time and how we can get aligned. I teach an Earthstrology class every month. We have a monthly teaching also by Améla Hall, teaching AstroHerbalism, by Faelan Shiva, teaching AstroTarot correspondence, by Alyssa Luna, teaching AstroEmbodiment. Other circles will be opening in Constellations soon, like a chart reading exchange circle for folks who want to get some experience navigating the heavenly happenings at the time of somebody's becoming with them. Rules will be, if you give a reading, you have to receive a reading too. And of course, be nice. Anyway, what are parallels? They are conjunctions by declinations. Let me change my screen share here so we can get a little bit larger and more interactive. You know, I've been using Amelia Earhart's chart for a few months now. I'm always trying to find cool charts, and one day I was looking at women in space, and then I like kind of rewound the clock, and so pioneers, of course, Amelia Earhart, a woman in a plane, right? And who mysteriously disappeared. Imagine, you know, that she was actually in the midst of navigating the entire globe. She actually left from right here in the Bay Area of California, where I reside, in Oakland, and had gotten almost all the way around. She took off after fueling in Papua New Guinea on her way to her next fueling site, which was Howland Island, which is in the Pacific South Pacific, and just mysteriously disappeared along with her celestial navigator. And you know, her chart, we see a lot of really cool things, like this Mars Jupiter conjunction in the 5th, right? Passion about courageous exploration might be something in that. And perhaps the Virgo archetype allows us to be precise, which you better be if you're circumnavigating the globe, especially back in the day before all the GPS and the things and autopilot, right? You see Moon Pluto here in a pretty strong square to that Mars Jupiter. We also see the sun at the node, which, by the way, means that Amelia Earhart was born in eclipse season, between a lunar eclipse a couple weeks, well, 10 days before her birth, and a solar eclipse that would happen 5 days after. Given where Lilith is, I can just see that it would be an annular solar eclipse, a ring of fire. And by the way, in Constellations, should you choose to join now, there's a 7-hour series of eclipse masterclasses and eclipse cycles masterclasses waiting for you, along with a class I taught last month on how I feel the invisible planets like Neptune and Pluto and Uranus come to us and through us via their connection to the visible planets like Moon and Venus surrounding Pluto in Amelia Earhart's birth chart. I mean, Pluto is right at the Moon Venus midpoint. Did I not find Pluto? I'm trying to trip on why Pluto Venus is also here too. Anyway, check out the Chiron midheaven midpoint. And one of the classes I'll be teaching later in this year in the School of Astrology's membership community, that's Constellations, is an introduction to midpoints and also harmonics and harmonic aspects. All right, let me just show like some of the aspects in Amelia's chart that maybe are a little bit more out there, like these septiles and undiciles. We have a moon quin undicile Uranus, moon septiles sun. And if you've studied these strange shapes, you will know how many of those things really make sense for this courageous soul who we believe died in this very brave, pioneering spirit. But let's go old school. The way of the 7 rays is something that I taught yesterday. The traditional aspect theory, where there are only conjunction, opposition, 2 trines, 2 squares, and 2 sextiles. Wait, that's 8. Well, conjunction was actually called cohabitation back in the day. Aspect means to see. And a conjunction is not that. We're just together in the same house looking through the same windows at the ones out there. Well, traditionally, we have the opposition, the 2 trines, the 2 squares, the 2 sextiles, and 4 blind spots. Those are the neighboring signs. And the neighbors to our pole, like Aries is in polarity with Libra, right? So the neighbors of Aries, Pisces, and Taurus, the neighbors of Libra, Virgo, and Scorpio, those are said to be blind spots for Aries and for Libra alike. Just want to check in with the chat here. Venus, I'm seeing you. 7-hour masterclass on eclipses. Thank you, Gemini Brett. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for your presence. What a gift. What a present. Julie here from New Zealand, not far away from where Amelia Earhart disappeared. And Brenda, traveling on a plane right now. Okay, so Brenda, you will, unlike Amelia Earhart, make it safely to your destination. Although some have said that Amelia Earhart did not disappear. Interesting, there are all these conspiracies out there about the strange disappearance of Amelia Earhart. I just want to check in with the Instagram flow real quick and say, hey, Kevin, Shannon, Raquel, super sweet to see you here. Hey, Selena. I love this StreamYard thing that lets me go live in 3 places at once. And Kevin, I see that you had to miss some of yesterday. Yeah, it was a marathon class, as we do. I would suggest you tune in first to the second video that's at your membership portal in Constellations, where we did some live chart examples with some stars of the group. It was really cool. We got to unpack some pretty amazing kind of new information in folks' charts. We found new information in people's farts and their birth charts based upon these amazing connections through declination. What is declination, you may ask? It is a good question, friends. And so let me just very quickly show you this. This is a list of declinations at Amelia Earhart's birth time. This purple indication, purple font here in Astro Gold Astrology Software's points list shows me that the moon for Amelia Earhart was out of bounds. Well, what is that? To the maps. This, okay? So what I'm showing here, this is an astrocartography map. Let me take a few things away here. The bounds of the zodiac, the bounds of the sun's path. This is the plane that Earth creates as we orbit the sun. And therefore, from Earth's point of view, the plane of sun orbiting us, the bounds of that plane, north and south of the equator, the plane of Earth's rotation, are the tropics, the Tropic of Capricorn, the sun's southern bounds, and the Tropic of Cancer, the sun's northern bounds. tropics, like tropical zodiac, come from the Greek tropikos, which means turnaround. So every year, the sun reaches its northern extreme. That's the Tropic of Cancer, closest to me, and therefore the longest day. And then it stops. Solstice means the sun stops. Stops what? Stops moving north, turns around. That's tropicos, and heads south for 6 months until sun reaches his southern bounds. That's the Tropics of Capricorn. When the sun ingresses tropical Capricorn, the sun shines directly above Earth's Tropic of Capricorn, and they'll tell you that the tropical zodiac is not astronomical. Idiots. It is Earthstronomical. It's about the most astronomical thing there is, and it is the only one of the zodiacal cosmologies, constellational, sidereal, and tropical, that is not arbitrary. Okay, anyway, the moon has her own path, and every month the moon snakes above and below the path of the sun. That's called the draconic month, the month of the dragon, the month of snaking. This is why we identify nodes with serpents, and this is why serpents eat the sun or the moon at eclipse time. More of that in the eclipse class waiting for you at Constellations. GeminiBrett.com/constellations to learn more. Okay. Serpents, like that one that chased Latona when she was pregnant with Diana and Apollo. Goddess of the moon and guide of the sun. What about that serpent in the Garden of Eden? Anyway, I digress. Look, every month the moon circles the zodiac. That's called the tropical month. And that means every month moon moves from the Tropic of Cancer to the Tropic of Capricorn and back. We are currently living in a very powerful time when the moon, and happens every 18.6 years when the North Lunar Node reaches 0 Aries. In the tropical zodiac, the Earthstronomical zodiac, not that Ophiuchian thing, when the North Node of the moon reaches 0 Aries, the moon goes most out of bounds every month. Most out of bounds north when at Cancer, and most out of bounds south when at Capricorn. Now, the moon is not tied to the sun's path. And so moon can go out of bounds, north of the Tropic of Cancer or south of the Tropic of Capricorn. Here in this astrocartography map in AstroGold software, let me add these signs in the midheaven, and you'll see that Capricorn's at the Tropic of Capricorn, Aries is at the equator, Cancer's at the Tropic of Cancer, and Libra's at the equator. Equinox, equator. We have northern signs and southern signs. And by the way, they're not always here on the Earth. The Earth spins. The so-called geodetic map places that Aries line at the prime meridian. But why is this Greenwich meridian prime? I'm more for the geodetic land center of Earth, which is the Great Pyramid of Giza. Anyway, this is where 0 Aries was culminating in the moment of Amelia Earhart's birth. This is where 0 tropical Cancer was overhead at the time of Amelia Earhart's birth. She disappeared somewhere in here, actually crossing from Virgo midheaven zones to Libra midheaven zones. I can put the rising signs in the chart here too, and just see that actually she took off and kind of crossed into Sagittarius rising, where Sagittarius was rising in the moment of her birth, crossing into Capricorn, right? Think Jupiter and Saturn. Well, that's intriguing. Okay, anyway, let me show you these lines for Amelia Earhart. These are where the planets were directly overhead, these circles, okay? And let's bring the midheaven lines back into the mix as far as the signs go. And there I can just see that the moon was in Gemini. And you'll notice here that the moon is north of the Tropic of Cancer. This means out of bounds, okay? Because the moon has northern latitude, that means north of the ecliptic, the path of the sun, which can only ever north to the Tropic of Cancer. The moon's northern latitude in a northern sign, Gemini and Cancer, the most northern signs, allows for the moon to go out of bounds. Look, this would have been possible for Pluto at the time of Amelia Earhart's birth as well. It would have been possible for Venus at the time of Amelia Earhart's birth as well, also in a very northern sign, Gemini. But Venus has southern latitude south of the celestial ecliptic, the path of the sun. And therefore, Venus is like kind of negating that northernness of Gemini and making it less north, where the moon is amplifying that northernness of Gemini and making it more north, and therefore having a declination, which is a measurement from the equator, that is greater than that of the tropic, which is about 23.5 degrees, the tilt angle of Earth, you see. And so we get the moon out of bounds. Okay, I'm over teaching as I do, because I wanted this to be a little bit shorter. And so let me just get to the point. Here's that the Mars-Jupiter conjunction, by the way, and they were actually right on top of each other. So they had a conjunction not only by longitude, that's zodiac degree, which we saw here, but also by declination, how far from the equator they were. And notice that this is around the zone, by the way, where Amelia Earhart disappeared. All right, this, look at Mercury's overhead point, pretty close to that of Venus and the sun. That's a parallel, friends. When Amelia Earhart was born, Mercury was overhead right here in this bit of China, I believe. Well, as the Earth spins, this place in Saudi Arabia, currently right beneath Venus, will later go beneath the sun and then go beneath Mercury. That's a parallel. We also use that term parallel for lines of terrestrial latitude on Earth, you see? Now, contraparallel is when a planet is as far north of the equator, like Mercury here, who is, I'm going to move this thing to see down in the bottom middle of the screen. It will show me that Mercury is about 18 degrees, 18.5 degrees north of Earth's equator at the time of Amelia Earhart's birth. Well, Uranus over here with Saturn, a conjunction by longitude, but not by declination. Well, Uranus is 18.5 degrees south of Earth's equator. And friends, this is called a contraparallel. So Sun is parallel Mercury and Venus, as we had seen, in contraparallel Uranus. We'll look at the connection between Mercury and Uranus. Mercury's with the nodes, and that we see in her natal chart, which is intriguing, right? She's an explorer, an adventurer. I saw this strange bravery here. And by the way, Jupiter is said to be exiled in the sign. And there's something interesting about that. He's also inconjunct Mercury, and he's living in Mercury's world. Okay. But wouldn't we expect some kind of connection between Mercury and Uranus? This technology of exploration and this courage of the adventurer? Well, we have it. And we have it here in this within 6 arc minutes, so-called opposition by declination. Mercury, when Amelia Earhart was born, 18, almost 19 degrees north of Earth's equator, and Uranus overhead in a place almost 19 degrees south of Earth's equator. That is a contraparallel. Now, not only Mercury and Uranus connected, it's strange, you know, I started looking at Amelia Earhart's chart like 4 months ago and just adding it as one of my favorites that I explore often in the School of Earthstrology in our Constellations classes. I've been using Bob Marley's chart a lot, Frank Herbert's chart a lot, because I'm all stoked about Dune right now, Amelia Earhart and others. And by the way, in our parallels class, we looked at some parallels in synastry between Bob Marley and Rita Marley, and also between Bob Marley and the recognition of Zimbabwe independence. Right, an event at which Bob Marley performed in Zimbabwe, by the way. It was intriguing, the things that we found. Well, what about Mercury and Uranus in contraparallel in Amelia Earhart's nativity? Look, friends, we don't really see the two connected according to traditional aspect theory. I mean, by plates, they are square, because Leo is square Scorpio. That's called platic. But would you look at that square? Would you call it an orb? They're about 102 degrees apart. Now that actually, and this is a tale for another time, is really strong in sevens. This is Mercury biseptile Uranus. And for me, that really counts as long as I'm on this grid again. Let me show you that Neptune was in parallel with Amelia Earhart's midheaven. And I find a lot of sense in that because she brought vision and fantasy, beauty to this world. I love it. Adventure, spirit, but we find a lot of that in Mercury, Uranus, and at least according to traditional astrology, and I like to start there. We have Mercury and Uranus in contra parallel, Scorpio, Uranus, Leo, Mercury, this courage of, exploration, adventure, travel, in this kind of danger of Uranus there in Scorpio. And the other thing about Mercury with Uranus and Scorpio, how about conspiracy? So this, I didn't know much about Amelia Earhart, still don't, but I've been exploring a bit. Just today, actually, I found out that like 4 months ago, right when Amelia Earhart's landed in my consciousness as a great chart to play with, that there was this group called Deep Sea Visions that seems to have perhaps discovered her plane deep beneath the surface of the Pacific Ocean. Check it out. But looking into that this morning in the water locally, drowning in a bathtub, I didn't, I'm alive, we're good. I also discovered all these conspiracies about Amelia Earhart's disappearance, like she was a spy, like kind of a Bermuda Triangle thing, like aliens, right? Astrology. Check it out. It's fun. And I really feel that Mercury Uranus link there. And while I don't see it, I do see it in septile, by the way, and that makes a ton of sense to me. And again, later this year in Constellations, I will be teaching an introduction to harmonic astrology. At some point, I will teach deep masterclass, deep dive, a course on harmonics because it's one of my favorite amazing adventures in new astrology. But in the old astrology, there's not really a connection between Mercury and Uranus. But we find it, I should say, in longitudes, that's zodiac degrees, but we find it in declination. And almost a perfect one. And it just makes so much sense as a contribution to who she was. And by the way, the moon, the Gemini moon with Pluto and the Leo sun were in that mix too. The Leo sun at the node, and that means eclipse. Right, all that comes together with Uranus, who can be danger and accidents, One more thing I want to share with you, GeminiBrett.com/constellations, again, is a place to go if you would like to learn more about constellations. That's not where I meant to head. Where are we? Here. Okay, so GeminiBrett.com/constellations to get here, okay? GeminiBrett.com/summit will currently get you to a free astrology summit that I am part of, along with amazing, great astrologers like Samuel Reynolds and Stormy Grace and Divine Harmony, Frank Clifford and Linda Bird, and Kaylin Castell, one of my first teachers, Peter Burns, Louise Eddington, Martha Hines, so many more. So head to the easy link for you to remember, GeminiBrett.com/summit. We'll take you there. You can register for free. I hope to see you there. You will hear some of my sharing about how the moon is an incarnational device that reflects the one light in a unique way that will never repeat. This is you, a miracle soul incarnated so you can grow to grow all that ever was, is, and will be. GeminiBrett.com/summit to get there. GeminiBrett.com/constellations to tune into at this point. Only the $16 a month maiden voyage price to join Constellations and join an amazing community of star seekers like you, and to share the signs of the time with folks of like heart and mind. Thanks for spending some time with me here today, friends. Dig parallels. They're amazing. See you in space.